are these large information services, CompuServe, Genie, Delphi, a couple of smaller ones, which, are what we think of as the internet today, but in a much abbreviated form. All these services, though, had little special interest groups, or SIGs as they were called, or forums, which were essentially electronic gathering places for nerds of various descriptions. And this one was for nerds who use this particular software. So I said, fine. I joined up to CompuServe, checked it out, and said, fine, wrote my review. Well, I had 4 hours of free connect time left. And I said, well, they're paying $30 an hour to be connected. This was way back. And I said, that's $120. I'm not going to waste that kind of money. And I said, what else is in here? So I began poking around to see what was available. Well, I stumbled into a group of people called the Literary Forum. And these were people who liked books. There were some writers there, both aspiring and published, but mostly readers, people who like to read and talk about books. Well, for someone with 3 small children and 2 full-time jobs, this was the ideal social life. So I signed up immediately and began hanging around there too. Well, I'd been there for maybe a year or so when I made up my mind to write a book for practice. Now, I did not announce it to any of the people that I knew online because I'd seen too many people come through there talking about what they were planning to do. Then you'd never see a word of what they were planning to do. I said, well, I'm going to wait till I've actually written something, and then I'll decide if I want to tell anybody about it or not. So I didn't tell anyone, just started in working. Well, I've been at it maybe 6, 7 months, and I found myself working late one night. I worked late every night because of 3 small children and 2 full-time jobs. But I would pause in what I was doing every half hour or so and log into CompuServe and pick up any waiting messages and just to break the monotony. I didn't even have solitaire on my computer, that's how old it was. And I was doing that one this night and found myself having an argument with a gentleman online about what it feels like to be pregnant. He said, oh, I know what that's like. My wife's had 3 children. And I laughed and I said, yeah, Buster, I've had 3 children. He said, well, can you tell me what it's like? I said, I can, yes, but it's sort of complex. I don't think I can fit it in a 30-line message slot. I said, I tell you what, though, I have this piece that I wrote a few months ago in which a young woman tells her brother in some detail what it's like to be pregnant. I said, I'll put that in the library here and you can read it. So I did. And everyone who had been following this argument went and read the piece and came rushing back. And they said, well, this is great. What is it? And I said, I don't know. And they said, well, where's the beginning? And I said, I haven't written that yet. And they said, well, put up some more. This is fascinating. So I don't write with an outline, and I don't write in a straight line. I write in little bits and pieces where I can see things happening. So, every 2 or 3 months, if I had 5 or 10 pages that would stand alone without a lot of explanation, I would put it up in the library. And all these people kept saying, oh, Diana has a new chunk. Have you read it yet? And they'd all go read it and argue about it and come back and ask me questions. And after 4 or 5 of these, they started saying, this is cool. You should try and publish it. I said, I don't even know what kind of book it is at the moment. It started out as straightforward historical fiction, but with the time travel and the Loch Ness Monster and a few other things, I really don't know. I said, but eventually I'm going to write a book that I'd like to publish. What should I do? Well, I did, as I say, know some published authors, professionals, and every one of them said, you should get a literary agent. They said an agent can do 2 things for you. He or she can get the book read much more quickly than if you're sending it to a slush file. And if it does sell, the second thing they can do is negotiate a much better contract for you than you could do yourself, which is true. Literary contracts are totally Byzantine. My first one ran 12 pages of small print, and it's only owing to the skill of my first agent that I still own my t-shirt rights and my action figure rights. My husband says he can't wait to see the Blackjack Randall action figure. I asked my various friends, well, how would I find an agent? And they gave me good advice about, how to look for one and what you should look for and all that. And they said, you can go to writers' conferences, meet agents. There are guides that you can get at the library bookstore that list agents and what they handle. And they said, or you could just talk to people who have agents. And I said, well, that seems like the easiest thing to do since I'm not finished writing the book. So whenever I found myself in conversation with another forum member who I knew was a published writer, I would ask them, would you mind telling me about your agent? How did you find the first agent you had? Have you changed? Why did you change? If you write more than one book, do you have more than one kind of book? Do you have different kinds of agents? How does it all work? How much do you pay them? Do you think that's worth it, etc.? And they were very kind about sharing information. Well, they knew me, and I'd been there for a couple of years by this time. And I began figuring things out and doing a little research. Well, I began to zero in on this one agent named Pt.2, who I thought would be a good match for me. But he didn't take unsolicited queries, so I didn't know how to approach him. I thought, well, you're not finished writing the book either, just keep on asking questions. Maybe you'll find another agent who's easier, or you'll figure it out. Well, I did, and one day I was talking to John Smith, who's a friend who writes science fiction mysteries. And I said, well, I'm asking everybody about agents, John, have you got one? He said, well, yeah, by coincidence, it's the same as so-and-so's. His name is Pt.2. he said, I know you're almost ready to look for an agent yourself. Would you like me to recommend you to him? So I thought that'd be very nice, John. I was afraid John would leave CompuServe or be run over by a bus before I finished the book. So he sent Perry a note saying I was worth looking at. Now Perry, God rest his soul, was a much older gentleman. I'm sure never touched a computer in his life. All of his correspondence was on a typewriter. And so John just sent him a regular typewritten note saying, I know this woman. Everybody thinks she's hysterical. I've read enough of her writing to know she's script literate. You want to give her a look. Well, I followed this with my own query letter, and I said, Dear Mr. Knowlton, I've been writing and selling nonfiction by myself for some years now. But now that I'm writing a novel, I understand I need good literary representation, and you've been recommended to me by John and Judy and all these people whose opinions I respect. So I have this very long historical novel. I don't want to waste your time. Would you be willing to read excerpts from it? I didn't tell him I wasn't through writing yet excerpts from it. He very kindly called me and said, yes, he'd be happy to read my excerpts. So I hastily wrote up a 26-page single-spaced synopsis and sent it with my bundle of excerpts. And he took me on the basis of an unfinished first novel, which is not usual now, and it certainly wasn't usual then either, but very lucky for me either way. Well, it was another 6 months before I finally finished the book. And I called Harry to tell him I was mailing it to him and mentioned in the same conversation that I would be in New York the next week myself for a scientific conference. And he said, as I hoped he would, come up to the office so we could meet, because we never met each other face to face, we just talked over the phone. So I went up in New York the next week in some trepidation of mind, because at this point, Harry was the only person in the world who read the whole novel, and I didn't yet know what he thought of it. So I went up to meet him, and as I say, he was a charming older gentleman, took me back to his office, got me a Diet Coke, my tipple of choice. This is actually not wine with ice cubes, as the gentleman back there suspiciously suggested. It's not wine, is it? I wish. But, he was trying to put me at my ease by talking about his other clients. His conversation was not quite as reassuring as he probably hoped, though, because it was at this point that I realized that in addition to my CompuServe friends, he also represented Frederick Forsyth, Tony Hillerman, and Robertson Davies. And I was sitting at the estate of Ayn Rand, and I was sitting there thinking, if you have the nerve to call Robertson Davies Robbie, which he was doing, I said, you're a better man than I am. But what was most unnerving was that he had my manuscript sitting on the desk in front of him in this huge orange box in which I'd shipped it. And I was sure that at some point he was going to say, well, now that I've read the whole thing, it's just too weird, there's nothing I can do with it, but keep me in mind if you write something else. And I was expecting at any moment to hear this. Instead, he said, the thing about Robbie Davies and Freddie Forsyth and those guys is that they're all great storytellers. And then he laid a hand on the box and smiled at me and said, and you're another one. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was so gratified I didn't really care what he did with the book, but I pulled myself together enough to ask. And he said, well, I'm sending it out today to 5 editors who I think might like it. And he ran down the list for me of who they were and what he thought about them. And I said, well, that's great. How long do you think we might have to wait for an answer? Because I've been reading Writer's Market and hearing 18 months, 2 years. And he said, well, I told them I want an answer in 30 days. And thinking, boy, you picked the right agent. So I went home to wait for 30 days. Well, 4 days later, I got a call and said, this is Perry. I just called to update you on your manuscript. And I said, well, the 5 he sent it to it is one of them that said, I'm not reading a 10-pound manuscript, take it back. And so I called up expecting to hear that. Instead, he said, well, the 5 I sent it to, so far 3 of them have called back with offers to buy it. So he was able to negotiate amongst them for a couple of weeks, emerged with a 3-book contract, and paid them as a novelist. Thank you very much. Let's see. I do want to allow time for you all to ask questions, and we can talk more about the Exile, the graphic novel at that point, because I'm sure it will come up, etc. But I thought maybe before we do that, I would read you a couple of short excerpts, just so you'll feel you've had a genuine literary experience. If you don't mind, that is. Because these are excerpts from the book that I'm working on right now.